Ask you to certify that.
Okay, so tonight we are continuing with the amazing series of Rabbi Nachman Breslov. We're learning Sichos Haran. We're up to paragraph Lamed Tes 39. And this is actually such a critical, such a basic teaching in Rabbi Nachman. In a word, we could really say that this is, in a certain sense, this is the essence of what Rabbi Nachman wanted to teach. Because really what we're going to be learning tonight is about how important it is to feel. How important it is for a person to be in touch with their heart, how important it is for a person to be in touch with their emotions. And this is actually, there was one time Rabbi Nachman, it's recorded in Haran in Lamed Tes, that one day, I don't know exactly what his mood was, but Rabbi Nachman said, one day the entire world is going to be Breslov. And so, they said, really, and you should understand, at that, he had a lot of haters. He was going from place to place because people were just stalking him. And so, but he explained that really what he was referring to was that there's a pasuk in Yechezkel that it says, "V'hasiraisi eslev ha'eved mipsarchem." Hashem promises. This says in the prophecy that I will take out the heart of stone from your flesh, v'natati lachem lev basar, and I will give you a heart of flesh. And Rabbi Nachman said that lev basar, if you switch around the letters, lev basar is Breslov. Because what he meant was, when he said that the world is going to be Breslov, what he meant is that the entire world is going to be lev basar. That part of what it means in the Achras Yamim, what part of what redemption means, is that the whole world is going to learn to feel, to be able to have a heart of flesh, as opposed to a heart of stone, because a heart of stone is a heart that doesn't feel, like a heart that's really not functioning, and nothing penetrates. And when you a stone is hard. When my heart is stone, so nothing is going to move me. Nothing is going to mean anything to me. And I'm just I have all my guards up. Okay, so really so I see in this that what Rabbi Nachman was saying. What Rabbi Nachman was saying is that what the whole world's going to be Breslov. What he's saying is that what it means to be a Breslover is to feel. To have a lev basar, to have a heart of flesh, is one of the primary basic teachings, one of the prerequisites of being a chassid, of being a yid, is to be able to feel. So we're learning in Lamed Tes, and he says like this: Ra'i she'yagish tzarat yachid. It is appropriate for a person to feel the pain of an individual. Mikol shekain tzarat rabim. And certainly, it is important for a person to be able to feel the tzara of Rabim. Certainly, if there's of the nation, of the community, to feel the pain of the community. So it's appropriate for a person to be able to feel such a thing. Because it's possible for a person to know about either a person or a community that's going through something, that you know about it, and you know that the person is in pain, and in your mind it's all there, and nevertheless in your heart there's no feeling. Person is indifferent. The person is apathetic. And what do you do? What do you do if you don't? So, very simple. You should hit your head against the wall. What does that mean? So he explains. So he says that it says that lahakot harosh b'kirot levavo. When it talks about kir, that the word kir, the word for wall. So in Tanakh is a reference for kirot levavo. It's a reference for the walls of your heart, meaning that to cause your rush, to cause your thoughts to enter your heart. Okay, that means you need to force your thoughts to enter your heart. That's what it means to. That's the implication of knocking your head against the wall. Because and this is really what it means in the pasuk. We say this every day in Aleinu, that v'yadata hayom, you will know on this day, v'hashivota elevavecha, you should return it to your heart. Okay, that there's a lot of things that we know in our brains, and nevertheless we don't feel it. Okay, we have a lot of information. We have if you ask us things, we'll know we know all the right answers, and our problem is that we don't feel it in our heart. And this is there's knowing and there's knowing. There's a famous story of a certain Jew that his family was from the Misnagdig movement, from the anti-Hasidic movement, and so he went to, I believe the story was, he went to a B'lei Le'eger, and he was there for 3 months, and he came back, and like his family was like making fun of him. He's like, no, well, what do you learn? And so he said, what did I learn? I learned that there's a God in heaven. I learned that there's really a God. So he said, for that you went for 3 months? For that you're wasting your time? Like you could have done so much. You could have helped us around. Like you left us for 3 months because you wanted to learn that there's a God. Everybody knows there's a God. So he said, no, everybody knows. Everybody says, but I know. Okay, like they're saying, like a lot of people, like they know all the right answers. They know they can spit back exactly what, but it's not real. Like it's not part of their experience in life. Like I told you before that there's an interesting phenomenon, interesting phenomenon that we sometimes we speak lashon hara. Sometimes we'll touch moksah on Shabbos, and it never happens that accidentally we'll be playing with a fork, or accidentally put it into an electric socket. Like it does not get
No,
so how come? So what's the difference? So the difference is very simple, because when we were little kids, so one day, so we were speaking lashon hara, and so our mother told us, said, hey, lashon hara, we don't speak lashon hara, and so the next day we were playing with a knife around the electric socket, and our mother said, and so like the way that we developed was that like okay, lashon hara is like okay, yeah, and playing with electric sockets like that really made it to that we know. that we know. And so if our parents would have, like when we were young, if they would have like Hashem, that who knows, like that's V'hashivas Lavacha. That's really V'hashivas Lavacha. And like there's a distance between what we know in our heads, like what we spit back. There's a dissonance between our thoughts and our, went off? No, there's dissonance between our thoughts and our feelings, and this is one of the most important things in life, that we should not simply live life in the intellectual dimension, but rather it's important for all of our intellectual thoughts to share them with our heart. Okay, so this is really this idea that this is the point of this paragraph, that how critical it is for a person to feel. And the truth is that this was the set goal of the Muslim movement. That the Muslim movement was really, they put their agenda to be that, to be able to connect between the brains and the heart. And this is they have their particular method of trying to get this, but like to care, like to really care. And this is what I think that, in a certain sense, like what we said before, this is what it means to be a Breslover. In another sense, this is really what it means to be a Jew. Like I remember once that I was speaking to a friend. This wasn't like a friend of mine that was working in a certain capital yeshiva, and like so that he was telling me that he was speaking to his students. So like what are your like challenges? What do you think? What are your concerns for the next year, for the coming year, that they're going to university? And so they told them that there's going to be, I think there's not going to be, like it's not going to be so obvious that we're going to like not everybody's going to be keeping Shabbos, not everybody's going to be Shomer Negiah, not everybody's going to be davening, and so what's the problem? But you do. So they said, yeah, but I don't really care. And that was the problem. Like the problem is just not caring. The problem is the person can do everything, but their heart is not there. Like the heart is not there, meaning that they don't care, that there's no emotion involved, that they're not emotionally involved in the Judaism. Of course, if your heart is not there, so then like it's only going to last as long as it's cool, as long as it's the end thing to do. And so of course, being real, being emotionally connected to everything we're doing is the most important thing of being real. We spoke about on Sunday. We spoke about being genuine, about how important it is to be a real person, and this is really having your heart into something is really being a real person when it comes to everything, when it comes to experiencing life. Now, so like, why is this such a critical thing? So there's a model of the human psyche that we learn from the Arizal, that the Arizal said that being a master of life is referred to as being a melech, as being a king. Okay? So what's it mean to be a king? So the Arizal said that being a king, melech, is actually an acronym that it stands for Moach Lev Kaved. Moach Lev Kaved means Moach is brains, Lev is the heart, and Kaved is the liver. So what does it mean? What does it mean Moach Lev Kaved? So a person has his thoughts, a person has their emotions, a person has the liver is referring to the most physiological part of our existence, okay, which is the part of your soul which is physiological, the part of our soul which is animalistic. So he says that a person who is a master of life, so it starts with their head, it starts with their mach, and the mach is controlling their liv, and it goes from their thoughts to their heart, and then their heart controls their physiological desires. Okay? Mm-hmm. Meaning that the person can condition their heart to follow their thoughts, and then a person can further condition their bodies to follow their emotions. Okay? So, in other words, that a person can have a certain dissonance between his thoughts and his feelings, meaning that I think that this is good, but I don't like it. Okay, so a person can condition themselves to love the things that their mind tells them that they should love, and to hate the things that their mind tells them that they should hate, and that's called that the head is controlling the heart. Okay, and then the second part is that where their heart is, so then their bodies follow suit. Okay, and they actually find physical pleasure in the things that their heart tells them to love, that their heart actually loves, and they find physical displeasure in the things that their heart dislikes. Okay, so that's when a person has reached this level of self-mastery, that their emotions is following their heart and their body is following their heart. So that their heart is following their mind and that their body is following their heart. So that's called the master of life. That's called the melech. Okay? And then he continues, the Rizal continues, that there's also an opposite situation. There's the situation that a person's heart is following their kaved, that they condition themselves to love the things that their body tells them to love, and to hate the things that their body tells them to hate. And then they hold their mind hostage based on what their heart thinks. And they condition their mind to justify all the things that their heart, who is being held hostage by their bodies, so they condition their mind to justify all the things that their heart. Okay. So for example, so a person's body tells them that I just want to sleep all day, I don't enjoy getting up. And so then they love that their heart is in their bed, their heart hates waking up, and so anything that involves, whenever you say, okay, who wants to wake up for Shachar, ooh, I hate that. Who wants to exert energy to help somebody? I hate that, and so your heart is following your body, and then your mind is following your heart. Okay, meaning that after enough times that your heart hates the thing that your body says, like so then you say, you know what? Who says I really have to wake up for Shachris? Maybe it's all a big joke. Maybe there's no God. Maybe the Torah is just a made up thing by the rabbis, and so maybe I don't have to get up. So yeah. So then he starts killing his brains to fit with his heart. Okay, so that there is says that's the opposite. That's kaf. Lamed Mem, that's Kalem, which means destruction. Okay, so these are two possible models. This is the master of life and the loser of life. That the master of life, so they follow their head, and their heart, they condition their heart to follow what their mind tells them is the proper way to live, and then they condition their body to follow their heart, which is in the right place. Okay, and then they're the master of life, and then they physically enjoy doing good things, and they physically hate doing bad things, and they've made it. And you have the opposite case, that a person just loves doing bad things, and they justify and they make up philosophies to justify doing the bad things, and then that's just a disaster of life. That is klima, that is destruction. So if you think about it, so we have these three parts of our psyche. We have our minds, which is esoteric, and then we have our bodies, which is physical, and then you have in the middle, you have the emotion, you have the heart. Okay, and that, so in a sense, so it's all the middle. Everyone is fighting over my emotions. Like my body is sending this message to my emotions that, hey, you should be on my side, and my mind is sending these messages to my emotions, you should be on my side. So really, the challenge of life is all about our emotions. The challenge of life is all, where is my heart? Is my heart more with my mind? And before it got held hostage by my body, but like my objective mind, which has rational thought. So is my mind controlling my heart, or is my body controlling my heart? So really, all of life is all about my heart. All of life is all about where is my emotions. What do I actually love in life? Okay, so this is actually the entire human experience is all about where is my heart. Okay, so that's where the person that's not connected to his heart, a person who's not a feeling person, so they're actually missing out on the entire human experience. Now, this very interesting thing that when we talk about heart, obviously we're talking about emotions, right? And this is like anybody who's ever texted knows that how do you say love, right? You know, that the heart is an expression of love, right? So that is the way to say it. So where does this come from? Where does it come from that we don't actually, right? Like love is actually not in our heart. Our heart is actually a muscle, right? So why in the world should this mean love? So we'll assume that's the people. We'll assume that's what the heart looks like in some angle. But what's the connection between the heart and love, right? So it's obviously a metaphor. You don't actually love in your heart. You actually love in your mind, right? But what's it mean? It's a metaphor because the emotion of love, and emotions in general. So the emotions is something of a person is similar to the blood flow, which is symbolized by the heart. Okay, in other words, that in the blood flow we find a certain medium between the person's body and their soul. Or in other words, that your soul is something I can't see my soul, I can't feel my soul, and I know that I have a soul. I'm aware of my soul, I'm conscious of my soul, but I don't feel my soul. My body I see, my body I feel. And my emotion is something which is in the middle, that it's not something physical. My emotions are not something physical, but I can feel my emotions in a physical way. Your body is affected when a person is in love. So then the body feels different. When a person is angry, the body feels different. When a person is depressed, the body shows up. The body holds score of your emotions. That it shows up on your body, even though it's actually something completely existing in your soul. Okay, so this is what the blood flow of a person is. That the Torah says that the soul exists in a person's blood. Ki hadam hu hanefesh. Okay, a person can die if a person doesn't have enough blood. A person just loses blood, then you just die from the blood. And we look at there's a machlokes. What is actually the signs of love of life? I mean, what is how do we determine when a person is dead? Mm-hmm. And there's a whole halachic dispute. What is actually the thing that determines if a person, when you're allowed to pull a plug? Mm-hmm. So there's some that say that it's brainwaves. Right? There's some that say that, like that's the question, if a person is brain dead, so are they considered dead or not? And that's not the accepted opinion. That if even though your brain is not there, you're still considered alive.
I know people like that.
I don't know if you're serious, but the one very clear halachic opinion is that it depends on your heart rate. Okay, and this is like I think in a lot of cultures, a lot of law. So like when you like how do we decide if a person is dead or alive? Is the heart. That the heart is the definition of being alive is your heart still going? And so the heart is a physical expression of the fact that your soul is still connected to your body. So the soul, the heart beats and the blood flow is this medium between your body and the soul. It's the place where we see the connection between the body and the soul, which is equally expressed in the emotion as being this place where your soul is expressed through bodily functions. Okay, so that's where this is my theory on where it came about that the heart represents emotion and love. Okay, so because it's actually the place where the heart, the body, and the soul come together. So of course, that's where you're the most alive. Because what does it mean to be alive? The definition of being alive is that your body and your soul are together, right? When you die, so you still have a body, and you still have a soul. So what's the difference between being alive and being dead? The whole difference between being alive and being dead is simply that when you're alive, that means that your body and your soul are together. When you're dead, then your body and your soul are separate. So the definition of being alive is that your body and soul are actually together. So what does it mean that your body and your soul are together? That means that you feel. That means that you feel. That means that you're connected to your heart. Okay. So when we're talking about being alive, so the definition of being alive is being able to feel and being connected to your heart. Okay. So this is why it's critical. A person that doesn't feel, a person that doesn't have an active heart, so then there's something wrong with the person. We can say that the person is a little bit dead. The person is a little bit not there. The person is a little bit, this person not experiencing life, and the feeling numb and feeling that not being able to feel for somebody is a symptom of a person not being alive. Okay, so this is why. If you want to know who says, like Rabbi Nachman tells us that it's important for a person to feel. It's for a person to feel the pain, and he means very practically. He means that it's important for a person that when you hear a sad story, that your heart goes out to them. Okay, and it's important when you hear that something bad happened, when you had something when the Jewish people are going through something difficult. It's a critical part of being a Jew to feel. It's a critical part of being a Jew to be aware of that it's affecting you. And it's not just like, okay, he's an emotional person. No, being an emotional person is part of being a complete human being. It's part of being a complete Jew. It's certainly part of being a chassid, of being a Breslov. So this is something the person needs to be aware of, that it's not okay not to be a sympathetic person. It's not okay not to feel things, and it's a call to action. Like if we find that we don't find things, that we don't feel things, that we should call ourselves out. We should ask ourselves, what can I do? Like I remember when I was in high school, so I went to MTA, and which is YU's high school, and there's a rabbi in YU. His name is Rav Hershel Schachter, and so he's a huge tzaddik, and what he mesmerized me with was that he would constantly cry. He would tell stories, and just everything would just bring him to tears. And I remember like being like in high school, like I was jealous. I was like I saw in that something beautiful. I saw in that, like, I wish I could be that. And I knew that I was not that. And I knew that, like, when I hear about bad things, I just smile. Like, Like sometimes sometimes I would laugh. Sometimes I remember like when I was like less than 10, like somebody like called me to like they called us because like some like great aunt passed away, and like nobody was home, so like I was the one getting the message, and like I remember like smiling or laughing just because I was like just like so young. I didn't know how to deal with the emotion of sadness. It was just like sometimes like you don't know what to do. You don't know how to process emotions, and you can have like the most backwards emotion you could possibly. Sometimes like with kids you have this that they do something wrong and they laugh, and like they don't mean to laugh at you. They just don't know how to deal with the emotion of the embarrassment of being in trouble, and so like it just comes out in strange ways. So I remember being this high school student and seeing Rav Schechter always just being a crybaby and being jealous of him, and I asked my 11th grade rabbi, like what's like I asked him, like, what should I like, I wish I could be that, what should I do? So he told me not to worry about it. He told me don't he told me like
don't cry.
I knew him when he was your age, and he wasn't like this when he was your age. So you still have hope. You can still.
You still have hope.
And
so as he grew older, he cried.
No, which is really amazing thing, because like if you're gonna go through life trying to force yourself to cry, like you're not gonna get anywhere. Like it has to be natural. It has to be real, right? So, but I remember like I already knew like from a very young age that it's an important ideal. Like that's the way a yid is supposed to be. When I came to yeshiva, so I was learning in the Mir Yeshiva, and so my Rebbe, Rav Shulevitz, so he said a story about his father. His father was Rav Chaim Shulevitz. So the story was Rav Chaim Shulevitz, he had a class that he would give. He had a class that he would give on Friday morning, Friday noon. That it was a parsha shir, like parsha class, and so that morning in the news, so he heard that there was somewhere in the north of Israel that there was this elderly couple that were standing by a bus stop, and the bus bashed into them, and they both died on the spot. And so Sir Chaim Shulevitz came into the shir, and he stood, and like he stood, and everybody was quiet, and he just started crying. And he cried for 15 minutes straight about this elderly secular couple that he never met, that he just heard that just an elderly couple just died, and that just broke him to the point that he couldn't function. And then after 15 minutes, then he opened the Chumash, and then he continued to cry for another 15 minutes. And then after another 50, after half an hour of just crying, so then he just closed the Chumash and just said, "Okay, that's it. Okay, good Shabbos. I'm sorry." And like that was the biggest shir. That was the biggest shir that anybody ever experienced. Just to know what. Like that's how a Jew is supposed to feel. That's how a Jew is supposed to experience life. That you hear something sad, and so like the natural response is that breaks me, and that is the way heroes live. That is like we have this. So we have a lot of things working against this. Like we have I'm proposing over here that Rabbi Nachman is telling us that feeling is an important thing, and we have what's holding us back? What's holding us back from feeling things? So a couple of things that I believe are part of this equation. For some reason, the world looks at feeling as weakness. Okay? I remember once reading from Rabbi Twersky, that he quoted some like newspaper article that they were talking about some funeral, and people were crying without shame, and like so that line stuck out to him, and he was like pondering that, like, what's that mean? They're crying without shame. But like, why on earth should there be shame in crying? Like, why has society told us that, like at a funeral, I'm crying without shame, but in general, so yeah, of course, it's shameful. You cry, you're a crybaby, you're a baby, and there's this feeling that you cry, that it means that there's something wrong with you. That means that you're weak, and a person who's strong, that's a person who's just only connected to their brains. Okay, so there's this social construct that's working against us. That's telling us that feeling is for wimps. Feeling is for losers. Feeling is for people who can't control themselves. If you're a strong person, I think I told you once that there was this discussion. One of the WhatsApp groups I'm in about using psychedelics, and so there was a therapist on the group that was sharing that she used microdoses of psychedelics to help extremely high up American veterans, Army veterans, and that you have these people that they're like something green berets and Navy SEALs and like the highest levels in the Army, that they have extreme PTSD, and nothing can help them. Like conventional therapy just won't get to them, and so she was saying that, and so the thing is that the very thing that brought them to their high levels of success was their ability to express their emotions. That the whole reason why they were so good, why they were the world's champions of being warriors, of being such fierce fighters, is specifically because they were able to completely express their emotions. So because they were the world's experts in expressing their emotions, so now, like when they wanted to deal with their underlying traumas, so because they were so good, such world's experts at not getting in touch with their traumas, so now it was impossible to heal them. And so she was saying that, like, time after time, the experience was that these bleeping mushrooms, I'm just helpless against them. It was the first time that something was able to penetrate all these walls. That they put up these walls to be able to not be in touch with their emotions. And this was the first time that something was able to melt these walls. So it was the first time that they were able to feel. They were able to be in touch with their feelings. So I guess for centuries, so the being the warrior was being success in life. To be strong means, and to be a strong person at some point in life meant that, at some point in history, that meant being able to suppress your emotions. And so that's what we developed. We developed socially, that it's a weakness to be able to be emotional, because if you're emotional, then you won't be able to do the good things in life. Then you won't be able to succeed. You won't be able to do what you got to do. And so that's number one. That's number one. That the world tells us, society tells us, that it's a strength not to feel. It's a weakness to feel, and therefore we want to be strong, and therefore it's wrong to feel, and therefore there's something, and so we need to reteach ourselves. We need to rewire our brains that that's not actually the way that Hashem wants us to live. That's not actually the way the Torah wants us to live, and it's actually a bluff. And it's actually that there's some if that's what it takes. It's actually very interesting that IDF soldiers are not like this. I've had bad experiences with American soldiers, and that sometimes being an American soldier, so it messes with your So sometimes if you're I've met people that were in the American Army for 10 years, and it messed with their ability to be nice, and it messed with their ability to just be calm, and there's and I have another student. Baruch Hashem, he's okay. He was a warden for 3 or 4 years in the jail, and he left that job because he realized that the job requires of him to suppress his emotions and to be mean. That's his calling was in this job, is you can't be a good warden unless you're mean. And so he realized that it was affecting him. He realized that it was affecting his personal life, and so he just left. He said, this is not for me. So the Torah is telling us that get away from these situations, get away from these societies, that your feeling is frowned upon, that your feelings is not something which is going to allow you to our failures are not going to allow you to succeed in your job, because to be a successful human being, you need to be able to feel. Okay, it's a critical thing. So now, there's another right afterwards. The next Torah. The next Torah in Rabbi Nachman is something else we're going to speak about next week, B'ezrat Hashem. But right afterwards, he goes back about failing. He has another teaching about being connected to our hearts, and that is about having a broken heart. Rabbi Nachman talks about the lev nishbar, and he wants us to know. He says in Mem Aleph, in 41, lev nishbar va'atzvus einu inyanecha klal. That he wants us to know that there's a big difference between having a broken heart and being depressed. It's not the same. Meaning that a person could mix up between the two because they're both sad, they're both down, right? A person who's sad and a person who's depressed, they're both down. So a person could mix up the two, but he wants us to know that it's not the same at all. Because when you have a broken heart, that's in your heart. But actually, being depressed, it actually comes from your spleen. Okay.
What's the difference between the words he used for depressed and sad?
Lev nishbar is how he's calling sad, and atzvut. Atzvut is how he's calling depressed. Okay. So he says that depression comes from the spleen. Okay, so this is like this part of I think it comes from Aristotle. It comes from like in Greek culture. I think it's called humorism. That the different ideas that there's different kind of fluids going through our bodies. You have red fluid and green fluid and black fluid and white fluid, I think. And so the spleen is in charge of the black fluid. That's why in a lot of Sfarim they call depression mara shchara. Mara shchara is a reference to this black fluid. Which is filling up our bodies and bring us down, and so he says it's actually from the tchol, it's actually from the spleen. I heard once that, like in the 17th century, they would call depression having spleens.
And spleens.
Spleens, yeah. So that was their.
Sounds much nicer than depressed. I'm just having spleens.
It's just spleens, yeah.
I mean, kind of good.
So he says it comes from different places. That a person shouldn't mix up between the two at all, and it's okay. So a person shouldn't think that the two are the same. And he says that it's sitra achra. It comes from the other side. Depression is coming from the side of evil. Like v'hakadosh baruch hu sonei osa, and Hashem hates it. Hashem hates when people are depressed. But if you have a broken heart, so that's very beloved before Hashem. Because it's extremely, extremely precious before Hashem. And really, the truth is that it would be wonderful for a person to always have a lev nishbar. But for a lot of people, so it's easy for a person to move over, to transition from being sad to being depressed. And that's why it's dangerous to be broken the whole day. Really, it's wonderful to be broken the whole day. Now, there's something very, you're very alive. When you're broken, you're very alive. You know, people that, like, if you go to an AA meeting, the people that are most alive. People are vulnerable. They're like, they have these real, like when you're broken, if you have people that are got like a shiva house. You have a shiva house. People are very, very raw. People are very, very present. People are very, very open. That lev nishbar, like that when we talk about a broken heart, so it doesn't broken, like you can have like a picture of brokenness of like a house that collapsed. You can have just like a picture of demolition. Okay, that's one picture of broken. But the truth is that when we're talking about a broken heart, we mean that it's broken open. I break open my heart because I don't want my heart to be closed. When my heart is closed, then it's a lev even, and nothing is coming in. And having an open heart, a broken heart means that I broke through my heart, that things should go in, things should go out, that should be able to be alive, and that's really what a heart is supposed to be. When a heart is clogged, so when a person has too much cholesterol, then that kills his heart. Then the heart stops. To be a functional heart needs to be open. And to be open means that it's broken. It means that you broke through the cholesterol. You broke through all the cloggage. You broke through all the things that's closing up your heart, and to open it up in order that there should be this constant flow. So Lev Nishbar is really the most amazing thing. The person, when a person, something breaks a person, so it forces him to be real, to be open with himself, to feel. It forces him to feel, and that's such a beautiful time. A person can really get in touch with truths that he wasn't able to be in touch with the entire time that he was just full of his head. And the fact that his heart is broken, so that means that it's finally flowing again. It's finally he's able to feel again. So this is what Rabbi Nachman says about a lev nishbar. Now he speaks about this again later in the Sefer, in Reish Lamed Aleph. Reish Lamed Aleph, Rabbi Nachman says, "Sipur li acha be'anashav shepam achas shalas Rabbeinu zichron levracha ma'u chiluk sheben livda v'marashchar." What's the difference between having a broken heart and being depressed? Hey shivlo lev nishbar hu kach shafilu k'she'omed ben ha'olam, that a person who's brokenhearted is like that when you're k'she'omed ben ha'olam, that even if you're standing with people, yachzir panav v'yomar Ribbana Shalala, and just to be able to constantly, even when you're around people, to just reach out to God. That's what it means. A person have a broken heart. That means that you're alive. That means that you're connected. That means that your heart is present. That means you're not just going through motions. That's what it means to have a lev nishbar. To be sad, to be sad, to be broken means that you're not just happy-go-lucky. That you're feeling life. That at any moment say Hashem. And it says here that uva'os hashah ba'atzma. And when Rabbi Nachman was just answering a question. He said, Rabbi, what's the difference between? But uva'os hashah ba'atzma b'toch kach amar Rabbeinu zichron levracha Ribbana Shalala. He did a real demonstration. he really showed everybody what does it really mean to just call out to Hashem, just from a real raw place. And so what does it mean? So Lev Nishbar is not about being sad. Lev Nishbar is about being open. It's about feeling. It's about being connected to your heart, as opposed to your heart being not there. As being about your heart being not a part of your human experience, and the same idea is really expressed in the Tanya. The Tanya says, Perek Lamed Aleph, that he also talks about the difference between a broken heart and being depressed, and he says that I like the way that he codifies it. He says, Atzvos hu shlibo metumtam ke'evan. He says that when a person is depressed, so it's that his heart is clogged up like a rock. Ve'ein chiyus v'libo, and there's no life in his heart. Aval merirus v'lev nishbar, but having a broken heart, adrab, just the opposite. Hare yesh chiyus v'libo lehitpa'el u'lehitmamer v'akshu chiyus mebechinas gvuras, and you're very alive. When you're sad, you're very alive. It's you've heard the expression that I'd rather feel pain than feel nothing at all. Mm-hmm. That when you're feeling pain, that means you're alive. And there's something very beautiful about the ability to feel pain. That a person who's not able to feel, a person who just their heart is closed off. So then that means he's a little bit dead. That means he's a little bit dead. That being depressed is being dead, and being sad is being alive, and never the twain shall meet. So it's absolutely a important thing. It's an important human function to be able to feel, to be able to be sad, to be able to feel love, to be able to be in touch with our heart is a critical part of being a Jew. And so what should we do? What should we do? How can we try to fix this? How can we try to, if we find ourselves that we're not feeling as much as we should, so what can we do to try to improve this? Okay, so first of all, talking about this is the first thing, just the knowledge, just the awareness that it's important, that it's not okay. You because otherwise you could think that that's him and this is me. He is an emotional person. that they call it emo. Yeah, he's like that's him. I'm me. Like different strokes for different folks, and that's okay. So Haran says no, it's not okay. It's not okay to not be an emotional person. Part of being a master of life is to be an emotional person. So what can a person do? So the truth is that there's a lot of things we can do. A lot of the reasons why people tend to not feel is, if you think about it, that we spoke about before about PTSD, that these veterans, that they had pushed their emotions deep down in order not to feel them. Okay, meaning that they have, it's a defense mechanism, because they don't want to feel pain, so they push it down and they suppress it. And that's what they make themselves tough, they make themselves callous, they make their hearts like stone, because they don't want to experience this pain. Okay, so to allow ourselves to just to know that it's okay to feel pain. There's nothing to be afraid of feeling pain. That it's human to feel pain. It's being alive to feel pain. That is, like, I can deal with it. I can deal with feeling pain. So just that knowledge of being able to feel pain, the knowledge that it's okay to tell myself, stop suppressing it, allow it when it comes up. So when we notice ourselves pushing it down, pushing it away, so to say, no, it's okay. I can take you. I'm going to make space for you. I'm going to allow myself. And this is what Shiva is all about. When a person is like Shiva is that Hashem tells us, don't suppress your sadness. Like feel it until it's out. Feel it until it's completely risen up, and it's been healed. It's been dealt with. It's been, some people like I saw recently about sadness, that like a lot of people that they don't need a solution, they just need a witness. They're just like your pain, it needs to be addressed. It needs to be validated, just like that, like to validate inside yourself that there's this pain, like it's okay. And so once again, that we teach ourselves to be indifferent people. We condition ourselves to be cold people because we're scared of the experience of feeling pain. So the way to heal this is to simply change, to simply switch the direction, and to allow ourselves to feel pain. That when we have an experience, we notice that we're trying to suppress this pain, to just allow ourselves. So it can be with somebody else. It starts in ourselves. The truth is, it starts with ourselves. That a lot of the times, the reason why we have trouble feeling compassion for other people is actually because we lack the ability to feel compassion for ourselves. And so to have self-compassion is really the first step to be able to have compassion on others, and certainly on a tzibur, is because that we don't allow ourselves to feel at all. So simply our hearts are turned off. Okay, so this is number one. Number two is something that we hinted to before, that there's something called that the brains can affect the heart. Okay, this is what they call in Chabad, Mayach Shalit Alalev, that the mind controls the heart. So what does that mean? That a person can use their mind to tell the heart how to feel. Okay, now how does a person do such a thing? So the most simple way to do this. This is really what this is kind of what guided meditations are all about. Okay, in the guided meditation, so somebody is helping you give messages to your heart, to your heart, to tell yourself what to feel. Okay, and so when I give when I give pre-written messages that I want, this is what my brain is telling me, so I can tell my heart in that, like, okay, now heart, now just feel that, and I can really tell myself what I want it to feel, and a person can actually control themselves by giving myself the message that my heart is, by giving myself the message that I want my heart to feel. So this is how I can actually bring myself to actually feel it. And I can tell myself, try to put yourself in their position. If it's for somebody else, that I can try to imagine myself using imagination, like going back to the idea of guided meditation, that to use my imagination to try to picture myself in their shoes, to try to picture myself in their in their conditions. Like I mentioned before, that my Rebbe's father, Chaim Shulevitz, once somebody stopped him. He was an extremely emotional person, as you might gather. So somebody once, someone saw him. He was like staring at a shoe store. He was staring at a shoe store, and at the showcase of the shoe store, and somebody asked him, was like, Rebbe, is everything okay? And he was like, and he told him, no, I lost myself. I was imagining the joy of a 6-year-old girl getting her new pair of shoes, and I was just lost in the happiness I felt for this imaginary 6-year-old. And so a person can just put themselves in, imagine somebody else's, imagine if it's you, imagine if it's your child, imagine if it's you, imagine if it's your parent, and then to just tell yourself a certain message, to be able to, if it would be you, if it would be someone you love, then you would care, then it would be more natural for you to feel. So a person can simply condition themselves. A person can make mental exercises to try to make it closer to home, in order that they should be able to feel more often. Okay? Meaning that, I put up these blocks. Okay, it's not me and it's not my best friends, so it doesn't bother me. And so if I can imagine if it was somebody in my immediate circle, so then I can use that emotion and then extend it to the person that it's actually happened to bring myself to be a more to be a more caring person. Now, similarly, if a person feels that they're just not connected to emotions in the first place, so reading can be an amazing exercise. The person that reads emotional things, this will be the script. Reading emotional stories can stories that are tagged as tearjerkers, as stories that are meant to elicit emotions, that they touch on emotional things. So a lot of times, people that they're not emotional, it's simply because the feeling emotions is just not part of their human experience. So if it wasn't internal, so you'll make it part of your human experience, and you'll teach yourself to feel, and then I promise you, once it's already part of your toolbox of things you do in life, so then you'll absolutely find real life experiences to elicit those emotions that you taught yourself when you were reading. So that once I became a more emotional person, then I'll be able to use that actual emotion in actual real life and actually have the true human experience. And last but not least, always you can daven. Okay? And this is that of course, that a person, and just not the knowledge that this is something that I aspire to, that this is something that I want to be. I know that this is part of being the kind of Jew that Hashem wants for me. I know this is part of what it means to be the kind of human being that I would like to be. So Hashem can do anything. So Hashem can even take away our heart of stone and replace it with a heart of flesh. And I bless us all that we should be able to really feel life. We should be able to really experience life in all of its dimensions, and to be emotionally present for ourselves, to be emotionally present for the people around us, to be emotionally present for complete strangers, and to know that there's no shame in feeling, there's no shame in being sad, there's no shame in love, and it's a beautiful thing to be able to be real. And B'ezrat Hashem, this is really what's going to bring our experience of life to the next level, because this means that everything is real. That when we're experiencing, when we're doing everything with our heart, so then we're really there. And then every activity that we're doing, we're going to be doing it with our real self. Every relationship, we're going to be doing it with our real self, and it'll show up because we're being more real. So we'll be actually be more successful. So B'ezrat Hashem, we should all have lots and lots of heart in everything we do. B'ezrat Hashem.